Hello, Sunshine. I'm Alexi Lawless, and welcome to the State of the Union podcast, where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. This week, we'll be talking, oh yes, it is upon us, the MLS kickoff of the 27th season. Amazing, amazing. Scally, Kanye, 94 versus 22, Manchester United, Pro-Rel, Gio, Kane, UCL, CCL, other L's, broadcast news, swag, Berhalter, and so much more. But first, joining me, as always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mossy, a soccer savant and a Fox Soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire. Mossy, how are you on this Monday, February 21st?
Doing very well. The MLS season is finally upon us. Excited to get it going.
Well, speaking, of the MLS season and just, the kickoffs, if you will, we thought we'd do something special and bring back someone. You know him. You love him. Our own friend and colleague when it comes to Fox. And if there is somebody kicking a ball, there's a good chance that you are going to see this man, and thankfully so, because he's really, really good at what he does. Stu Holden. Stu Holden is going to join us for this first segment because he knows a lot about a lot of soccer, but in particular, we will see his beautiful face gracing all of your screens this weekend as MLS kicks off. Stu, welcome back to the show. Where are you?
I am currently down in Mexico doing a little preseason work. I do like to get away before the season starts, allows me to kind of separate, but I'm claiming this is like my CCL scouting down here in Mexico, getting ready for CONCACAF Champions League fever and also the kickoff of MLS. And also, you mentioned this face, Alexi. I got to bronze it up a little bit before the season starts so I look good on camera, right?
My wife, we'll be hanging out in the house or wherever, and, she will check her phone and, go on Instagram or something like that. And inevitably I'll get the call from upstairs and she'll say, did you see what Stu posted? And I follow you, but I don't see a whole lot of what you do. And so then I have to go look at it. You say, that this is a vacation, but it seems to me that you are constantly on vacation. The amount of trips that the Holdens take is absolutely amazing. You make you put a lot of pressure on me at home because Stu's here and Stu's there, and by now I know that you've been down to Mexico and down to Cabo a bunch of times. They must know you as a regular and welcome you in. Senior Holden, welcome back.
Yeah, you have a tough time in your life, right? Like down in Florida over the holidays and like really slumming it, Alexi. Secondly, I see this as two different things. I'm immersing myself into the culture here. I'm learning Spanish. And also I was given very wise advice, I feel like, early in my parenting journey that before your kids get into school and they have all these activities and they're doing all these different things, travel them young, get them out of school in kindergarten, preschool. They're going to learn Play-Doh and all these different things at another time and give them some life experience. So that's what we're doing down here. And, my son is 20 months. He's got 2 words already, hola and ¿cómo estás?
Well, you, my friend, are living a charmed life. We all are living a charmed life, and we're very, very fortunate. Mossy, my friend, have you been watching anything? I know Stu, we prepped him that we were going to talk about some stuff that we're watching. I know he has something that he's been watching, but let's start with you over there. Anything interesting going on in the viewing world?
The first 2 episodes of the new season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel dropped on Amazon Prime this weekend. I watched those. I was actually discussing it with our boss, Zach Kenworthy, before coming on here today.
Is it good? I mean, have they jumped the shark? Are there problems, or it just gets better and better?
No, so far so good. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. In March, we have Atlanta coming back, plus Peaky Blinders. And then in April, Better Call Saul. So on the television front, the next few months, I should be...
How long have these things been off? I feel like Peaky Blinders was a thing that happened a long time ago. Evidently, it's coming back still?
Yeah.
It's always another
It's been out. It's been away for a while, but
I suppose they need a little bit of...
By the way, on the movie front, we can talk about this more next week, but they recently announced the 10 nominees for the Oscar Best Picture. I have seen 8 of the 10.
All right. And brag. I mean,
believe me,
live in a completely...
It's not a brag. It reflects...
type of position that you take constantly, because you and the other 9 people have actually seen them.
It reflects the fact that I have way too much time on my hands. Believe me, if I had a girlfriend, I would not have seen 8 of the 10 Oscar Best Picture nominees. But I intend to see the remaining 2 within the next couple of weeks. So I will have 10 out of 10. The only ones missing are King Richard, which is the Venus and Serena Williams one, and then this Drive My Car, which is going to be released on HBO Max March 2nd, so I'll watch it then.
Perfect.
Best movie I've seen so far is Coda. I highly recommend
Really?
it. Yes.
Okay, I will check it out. Stu, are you watching anything? I know we kind of prepped
Yeah,
you, so I do
so
know you have something.
when we went to Qatar, Alexi, I actually knocked out Succession on HBO Max, and I found that to be sensational. Really good. Can't wait for the next season of that one. Tons of drama. I also recently started Euphoria on HBO Max, and I couldn't watch it. I was 2-3 episodes in, and I think maybe it was too real, or the writing was so dark and involving like teenagers and I know sex and drugs and all this different stuff. But having 2 young kids, I was a bit like put off by that. Maybe that's controversial. Maybe
what I
it's not.
hear is that Stu Holden doesn't like sex when he says something like that. So that's fine. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then, so speaking of sex, I actually started and finished Sex Education on Netflix, which is very good. It's based in the United Kingdom. It's involving, again, teens and high school in the UK, but like lots of drama, lighthearted, witty British banter. Highly recommend. I knocked through that pretty quickly, actually, my wife and I, and I'm going to start the 4th season when it's supposed to come out this fall.
So what I hear is Stu Holden likes teenagers. Okay, that's fine. It's not a problem. Keep watching whatever you're watching. I have a couple of things. I will check it out because I never heard of that. I might check that out. Okay, 2 things. I have again violated my code, my principle when it comes to watching things. Again, not my fault because I didn't realize it when I started. The new Kanye documentary. Okay, it's 3 parts. It's on Netflix. Okay, I have watched the first. The second comes out this week, and then the third comes out the following week. I cannot tell you one Kanye song. Okay, but I'm telling you right now, 2 thumbs up from this guy. This was amazing. I was into it from the start. They have incredible behind the scenes video. They've been videoing since he was basically a producer all through his career, evidently. We met his mom, and I did know that his mom passed away in horrible, unfortunate circumstances. So you see, and his mom was a teacher and where he came from. Dude's got problems, don't get me wrong. And he is layered. Like all of us, he is certainly no angel, but I'm in. I think it's called Genius, but it's spelled Jenyuhs. But absolutely recommend it. So the first episode is out. Second one, if you're listening to this and haven't seen it, by the time you finish the first one, the second one will have dropped out there. So definite thumbs up for the Kanye doc. And then in the retro category, broadcast news. You ever see this movie?
Yeah, it's a classic.
Okay, well, it's a classic. I rewatched that, starring Holly Hunter and William Hurt and Albert Brooks. And not only is it just a great movie, but the world in which we inhabit of broadcast. And Stu, we are constantly thinking about this and balancing all this from an on-air personality perspective and the hot takey type of world that we live in, and what is acceptable and what's the line and what is crossing the line when you're broadcasting, and how much of it is entertainment and how much of it is just just the facts and all that kind of stuff. It holds up to this day. One of the great, I guess it's a comedy drama about the news industry, but it can apply to the entire entertainment industry and certainly the broadcast industry in general. And it still holds up, like I said, today. So I'll rewatch that. Anything else, Moss? You really light this candle?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get right into it. As we mentioned, we are about to embark on the 27th season of Major League Soccer. I can't believe it. I can't believe that we're at the 27th season already. Stu, I'm going to go to you first because there's so many things, and everybody has preview shows and people, some of them are in the weeds and some of them are more big picture. We're not going to get into everything because it's impossible to do that. But when you think of this 27th season, Stu, what are some of the things immediately that kick out and pop out to you, either on the field specifically or in general off the field?
I'm going to start in Charlotte because you talk about the 27th season. You talk about another introduction of another team, Alexi, when you were playing in the league. And then even when I was playing in the league, 2006, I think there were 12, 13 teams. And you think about where the league is now and the fact that we're going to be talking about, and we're going to be in Charlotte for that opening game where it's expected to break all MLS records for attendance, 75,000 people. And it's really interesting. It's one of the trends I think we'll be covering for time to come. The South, the way in which it has exploded around soccer and Major League Soccer specifically, not just, watching European soccer and this soccer hotbed. I mean, you're talking about Atlanta United drawing massive crowds, Orlando City, what they've been able to do, and then Charlotte coming in and going to have 75,000. Off the field, they're going to be one of the biggest stories of the league. On the field, that's another story. I think we can dig into that a little bit too. I think they're going to be pretty bad, probably towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But I'm really excited about this. I mean, the South is now the new Pacific Northwest in American soccer, where that long ruled the roost. And you're going to have some hot takes now with the South competing for, hey, this is the biggest and best place to be for soccer in America.
So Stu has already dropped that the Southwest is now the new Cascadia, if you will, and that Charlotte is going to be, I think, I don't want to quote you correctly here, really bad. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's those are definitely some of the things that obviously, we're working that game. It's going to be fun. And I love it when a new market comes to be, and it's not like they haven't had soccer there before, but a new market comes to be in the MLS form. And because every market's different. Yes, it's the same game, but every market's different, and they bring to it something different, and they bring, who they are. So that's going to be fun to see how that happens. When it comes to, a bigger type of picture thing that I'm also thinking about is MLS a couple of years ago, Commissioner Don Garber famously said, we want to be involved in the global market. And we certainly have seen that with all of the transfers that have happened. I mean, you're looking at a team like Dallas with the tens of millions of dollars that they have made on the assets that they have developed that have appreciated and sold on. And it's not just the outgoing, it's certainly the ingoing too. And certainly there's some big names. You look at Insigne, it's coming mid-season in Toronto, Douglas Costa to Los Angeles, Shaqiri to Chicago, and even big names within the league moving around. Paul Arriola going to Dallas, Josie Altidore going down to New England, Kellen Acosta going from Colorado to LAFC. So that's been fun. And then, of course, something that's been going on for a while, which is this young influx of talent, the Thiago Almada, $16 million to Atlanta and those types of things. Mossy, what's floating your boat so far?
Well, Stu, no team, and I do want to flesh out that point about the signings because I think this was an absolutely fascinating offseason, both in terms of outgoing, ingoing, intra-league moves, young and old, as you mentioned. But first, I want to ask Stu about this. No team has repeated as MLS champion since the Galaxy in 2012. No team has repeated as Supporter Shield winner since the Galaxy in 2011. So I'm thinking about NYCFC and New England. Let's go NYCFC first. I know a lot depends on whether they can hold on to Castellanos for the entire season, but what kind of defense of an MLS crown do you expect from New York City FC?
Yeah, I actually just was looking at this earlier. So in the Eastern Conference, in terms of roster turnover, at the most turnover was down in Miami. 15 players they've turned over coming back for next season. That's not a surprise. But actually at the top of the East, you have the New England Revolution, you have New York City FC, two of the teams that you mentioned, Mossy. They've kept, for the large majority, a similar roster. I think it's going to be difficult, though. You see James Sands has gone over to Europe and Rangers. Castellanos is rumored to go out. When you think about the New England Revolution and what made them so successful last year, it was Buxa, it was Bo. I know they brought in Josie Altidore, but you're also remembering that Tejan Buchanan's out the door, too. I think they're going to find it a lot more difficult this year to repeat as Supporter Shield. I don't see either of those teams repeating in those categories. I actually think this is going to be a big bounce back year for the Western Conference, an incredibly competitive Western Conference. But the Seattle Sounders, they're always in the mix. So this is not hot takey by any means. But like I look at their starting 11 coming into this year, the fact that they've added Rusnak, they're going to have a healthy Ladero. You're going to have a healthy Jordan Morris. Joao Paulo and Roldan are your two midfielders, and then solid at the back. I mean, Nuhu has turned into a heck of a player over the past year and a half, had a great African Cup of Nations, and so much so that Garth Lagerwey said, let's ship Brad Smith out the door to DC because we feel confident enough. So, I think of the Sounders, I think of Nashville Soccer Club, I think of LAFC when I think of the three teams right now in my mind. They're going to be competing for Supporter Shield and for MLS Cup. So I see it coming from the West this year.
So I was going to ask you about the two LA teams. Both missed the playoffs, and I was going to ask which one you think has a better chance of getting it right this season. It sounds like you think LAFC. They lose Bob Bradley. They're bringing in Cherundolo. Made a lot of interesting, not the flashy foreign signings you associate with them, but more Kellen Acosta, Ryan Hollingshead, moves within MLS, getting established MLS guys. So perhaps that franchise going in a different direction. And then they have a guy who I don't want to step on it, but he's actually going to be my golden boot pick for this year in Christian Arango, who the fact that they missed the playoffs, it sort of made it kind of overshadowed how incredible he was. He's one of the great signings in recent history to guy step in midseason, score 14 goals in 17 games. So I know a lot depends on the health of Vela, but it sounds like you're pretty high on LAFC. And of those two LA teams, you see them being the one more likely to make a big move this season.
Yeah, I do. I'll start with the Galaxy first because, the Galaxy struggled last year. Came out red hot. Chicharito was scoring goals. I think he was 10 in his first 10 games. And then they really dropped off. And I don't think they've made the moves they needed to in the back. Now, there's still time for MLS teams to improve their rosters. But I look at their back four. Araujo is a solid right back in Major League Soccer. He's starting to play now with the Mexican national team. I don't think they're strong enough at center back when you think about Williams there as well. And then Villafana is getting older as well. So I just think that they're going to struggle. Douglas Costa could be an impact player, could create chances for Chicharito. They got rid of Sebastian Lletget, who's a proven, consistently good player in Major League Soccer. On the other side, LAFC is an interesting team to me. I think when you look at their midfield, especially bringing in Kellen Acosta, Ilie Sanchez is a really smart pickup from Sporting Kansas City, who's going to play as that number 6. And then you have Cifuentes, who had a great year last year in the midfield 3. And really, it's about their front line. I mean, you mentioned it, Masi. Arango was red hot down the stretch. I don't think he can maintain that. I don't think he's going to be the golden boot winner in Major League Soccer this coming year. But if you got to get consistently the best, this is where Cherundolo, we're going to find out, can he handle these personalities in this team? There's no doubting the talent on the front line between Vela, Arango, Brian Rodriguez as well. But Rodriguez is so hot and cold. And if they can just keep him dialed in and engaged in a game for 90 minutes, he's a guy that could give you 10, 12, 14 goals for sure. And if you match that with a fit and healthy, motivated Carlos Vela, I think LAFC's got a really good chance to be a good team this year. Not to mention the fact that in the back is where they struggled. They made a big move getting Crepeau in goal. You're going to get Segura back from an ACL injury as well. And then Hollingshead actually might be one of the pickups for them of the season. He's such a solid and underrated left back in this league. So you're speaking about these interleague moves. It's really fascinating to me to see the LAFC go out and get proven guys that have performed well in Major League Soccer. And I think that that's going to tip them over the edge. And in fact, I see them challenging for the West this year.
All right, let's do some predictions and then come back to some transfer news because there's still news brewing and will continue on through the year. You've already mentioned it a couple times, Stu, and we'll go around. Each of us, I think, should have one here. Golden Boot, if you had to predict right now.
Rui Diaz, Seattle Sounders.
Oh, you can't take that because that's what I'm taking. Okay, yes, you can take
that.
You
asked me first.
Listen, great minds think alike, right? So, yeah, and you had mentioned it with a healthy Jordan Morris, healthy Lodero, Rusnek, and they're always good anyway. I mean, I think that is a solid pick for Golden Boot. Do you have anything different?
So I'm going to go with Christian Arango. Like I said, 14 goals in 17 games last season. If you extrapolate that out to a full season, I think
extrapolation is dangerous.
I will say though, one caveat: I'm some very promising signs from Joseph Martinez in the preseason. Atlanta are going to be one of the more fascinating teams. You mentioned Thiago Almada, my boy Luis Araujo for a full season, and Joseph perhaps looking like Joseph again. I know they made the playoffs last season, which was a step back in the right direction, but you wonder if they could be all the way back this season. And do you foresee perhaps a big season from Atlanta and Joseph Martinez?
I do. It's interesting because George Bello, they sold to Arminia Bielefeld in the Bundesliga, but they have Andrew Gutmann, who has really matured over the past couple of years. I think I'm very interested to see what Pineda can do now with this team. You mentioned all the attacking talent. I mean, in terms of roster builds and the amount of money that they've spent, Atlanta United continue to push the bar and be the pioneers in Major League Soccer for spending big money and just going out. Barco out the door. What do they do? Bring in Almada, who I'm very interested to see what he can do. But I do think this is going to be a bounce back year for Atlanta United in terms of their consistency over the course of the year. I actually thought they were going to, at the end of the year, they were starting to really build up their momentum and look very good going into the playoffs, but they fell short at the very, very end. And I think this is a team you're going to expect towards the top of the Eastern Conference. And I'm excited to see what they can do because as I know very well, having had major injuries in my career, Joseph Martinez in his first year off the ACL still didn't quite look himself. If he now has a full preseason, a full year under his belt, has people around him that can create some opportunities and take some of the pressure off of him, it's going to be a much better year for him. I don't think it's a golden boot type year for Joseph Martinez this year, but I should expect him in the 13, 14 goal range for sure.
All right, let's go most underrated team and the most overrated team. I'm gonna go right out and say underrated. It's going to be Nashville. They just are consistent, and I think they're just getting better and better and better. It's like I said, it's not sexy.
So Alexi, hold on a minute.
What?
I was thinking about Nashville for underrated too, but can we say that they're underrated at this point? I mean, this is a team that were one of the best in the Eastern Conference last year and challenging, because I did have that written down. But then I backtracked and felt like that was, I mean, they're expected to be a good team, right?
Well, I can do whatever the hell I want because this is my show. So
okay,
I am definitely doing that. But I will say most overrated was the team that you just waxed poetic about for the last couple of minutes, and that's LAFC. So there you go.
Okay.
What do you got?
My overrated team is, before we go to Mossy, is Colorado Rapids. I think Colorado overachieved last year. Big fan of Robin Fraser and what he's been able to do, but also lost a couple key pieces, losing Cole Bassett, losing Kellen Acosta. I think they're going to really struggle to maintain the same type of standards and expectations that we placed on them. That we will place off on them based on, look, finishing first in the West. You're expected to finish high again.
And what about underrated?
Underrated, I was going to go with Nashville, but
right.
I'm going to go with Toronto FC. Toronto have been very bad. That's actually putting it very nicely at this point. Bob Bradley Insigne in, Pozuelo in, a little bit of a revamp in the back line, bringing in Salcedo. I think that Toronto will make the playoffs this year.
Marcy, what about you?
I don't know if I'd call this team underrated. It depends how we're sort of interpreting this question, but I'm fascinated by Columbus this season because, as I mentioned, no team has won MLS Cup back-to-back since the Galaxy in 2012. I thought Columbus had a real chance last season after they brought in Kevin Molino and Bradley Wright Phillips, what they already had with Zardes and Zelarayan. I got that spectacularly wrong. They had a disastrous season, but it seems like everybody's off them now. That's still a very talented team that I could see having a bounce-back campaign. What do you think, Stu? Am I crazy? Could Columbus be good this year?
See, Mossy, I can raise my hand with you. I was with you last year and picked them to win MLS Cup again. And Alexi was giving me all the, no team is back-to-back. And I was like, come on, they got it. Instead, they ended up doing the Caleb Porter special. They win MLS Cup and then they don't make the playoffs. History would tell you that Caleb Porter will bounce back this year and the Crew will be a much better team. But I don't see them as a top of the East, 3-4 teams. I see them probably middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference and making the playoffs this year, but not out of there. I do agree with you, Mossy, that they will be a better team, though.
All right, what about, let's just go right to the, cut right to the chase. Who wins MLS Cup? I have, I'm going to put, you guys know this league. It's impossible to predict, right? But I'm going to go with my Nashville team, the most underrated team out there. Safe money.
Mossy, hold on. You said you didn't know the criteria for underrated. Alexi threw it all out the window and just picked one of the top two teams in the West, and then now he's picking them to win MLS Cup. So really underrated, Alexi. Way to go.
Yep. That's what we do.
I'm going to give you hot take stuff, as you know, I love Alexi. So I'm going to pick the Seattle Sounders because nobody loves the Sounders, right? The big bad Seattle Sounders. I'm picking them to win Major League Soccer and win MLS Cup, actually Supporter Shield and the Cup this year. So they're going to do the double. What's the stat, Alexi, on how many teams have not done the double?
7 times in history. 7 times in history.
7. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love how you go to Alexi as if I didn't give him that number.
Sorry, Mossy. That's actually the biggest insult ever. I'm so sorry.
I have Seattle winning the Supporter Shield. I agree with you, Stu. That is a scary team, top to bottom, like you said, with Rusnak and Morris and Lodero. Although it's almost a little PSG-like. You wonder if it's too much talent and if all the pieces are going to fit. But nevertheless,
you're doubting Schmetzer?
Yeah,
How dare you?
I'm going to give them the Supporter Shield. They might even break the points record. It's been broken a couple of times in recent years. New England did it
Oh
last
my
season.
God! Now
So
they're
I
not
think,
even making the playoffs.
so I think
Well
Seattle
done.
has that sort of regular season. It's just so much talent. My boy João Paulo in the
Hey,
midfield.
Mossy, Pochettino is no Schmetzer time, all right?
but I'm starting to wonder if this team can really be underrated if multiple people on this show are picking them to win MLS Cup. I'm going to go with Nashville to win MLS Cup, and I have Mukhtar as my MVP this season. So I'm all in on Nashville. They made one of the best intra-league moves getting Sean Davis for that midfield. I love that signing. And so I think Nashville are poised for a big year.
Interesting. Okay, some other news that's happening around here. Stu, you're Houston Dynamo. All right, news coming out that they're possibly signing Hector Herrera. I will tell you that for me, this current he spans multiple generations. But for me, if I wanted a player on my team, it would be Hector Herrera. I love him as a player. You have watched him for years, and certainly with your affiliation and connection over to La Liga, you watch him on a weekly basis. Would this be, first off, do you think this is going to happen? And if it happens, how much does he have left in the tank? And would this be good for Houston, let alone for Major League Soccer?
Yeah, there's a couple things there. I think with the news coming out and being leaked clearly that Houston have made an offer to Hector Herrera, I think they're trying to do a couple things. I think publicly trying to establish that the Dynamo, this is a new regime. Ted Siegel, the new owner there, Pat Onstad, the GM. Houston are spending money, and they want you to know that they're spending money and being a little bit more ambitious. I don't think they're going to be a very good team this year, but certainly the signs are there for this team starting to improve and, starting to spend money in this league where they want to compete and recognizing that's what you have to do in Major League Soccer to compete in the 27th season. So Hector Herrera is an interesting one. It actually is splitting a lot of opinions right now in Mexico with Tata Martino using him so much when in fact he actually has not been in great form. He's in and out of the team a lot right now for Simeone and Atleti. I would love this for the Dynamo, though. I think he still has a lot in his legs. I think you can play him in a position where he's still incredibly impactful. I'm with you, Alexi. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, Hector Herrera was one of, if not the best player for the Mexican national team. And so impactful in the way that he just set the tempo for this team, his passing, his final product. He's a leader. He's willing to get stuck in as well. But I mean, we have to be honest as well at the same time and say this is not the same Hector Herrera right now. But I still think Herrera in his current state coming off of La Liga, winning the title with Atleti last year, could still do a lot in Major League Soccer if put in the right environment and the right type of team in Houston. If you put him in a bad team there, it's not going to go well. He's not a player that can single-handedly change a team like Zlatan did for the Galaxy. Herrera needs good pieces around him. He needs players in front that can create and put the ball in the back of the net. So it's twofold. If they go out and get Herrera, I also hope they go out and spend a little bit more money and bring in some other pieces around him that can make that team good.
Stu, I do want to ask you a larger question about the transfer market, which circles back to something Alexi mentioned earlier. We were on a call with the league a few days ago, this beginning of the season seminar they hold every year, and they're obviously touting all the new players coming into the league, and it's both young and old. You have the Insignes, you have Shaqiri, you have Douglas Costa. Hector Herrera would fall in that category. But you could tell the signings that the league is more proud of is the Thiago Almadas, the Alan Velasco, the Facundo Torres, the Jairo Torres that just happened going to Chicago. Are you on that page too? Is it more these younger South American, Latin American type moves that you think reflect the growth of the league? Or do you still get more excited about that established world-class player? You know, we've seen both types of moves this offseason. So which one kind of gets your juices going more?
Well, if I'm going to look at some of the moves this past offseason, there's a couple. Douglas Costa with the Galaxy doesn't get my juices flowing as much as it would have, maybe fresh off of Juventus before going, back to the Bundesliga. Yeah, I just think that somebody like Almada that can get you up off your feet and it's young and exciting. You're learning about this guy. You're seeing him blossom, develop. And then you were talking about which big club is he going to go to in Europe? Is he going to get signed by one of the top 4 clubs in Germany and Italy and Spain? And these are the types of players I think that make these teams more exciting too. I think that the American soccer fan is savvier now than sitting there and buying a ticket to enjoy 10 good games of Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard before, the muscle injuries and all these. And these are world-class players. These are guys that I loved watching in their prime, but were not the same versions of themselves by the time they came to Major League Soccer. And I think MLS recognize and realize that. And in fact, it's one of the most exciting trends for me in this league is that some of the most exciting players out of South America, and I'm going to bat this one back to you, Mossy, is they're seeing MLS as a genuine pathway to go and develop a little bit more, get paid more money than they are in Argentina and Brazil, and then still get that big money move over to Europe and get to play in the big leagues by the time they're 24, 25. And it doesn't go as well as planned as for everybody. Ezequiel Barco is a perfect example of that. Came to Atlanta, was rumored with a lot of clubs, never quite hit that next level, ends up going back now to River Plate and playing in Argentina. So it's not perfect for everybody, but I think a lot of these names produce these moments and make these teams better within the league. And it certainly has raised the level of Major League Soccer across the board. So I think it's very exciting.
No, absolutely. I don't know. You're familiar with Tim Vickery, right? The BBC South American.
Yeah.
Every article he writes now about the Copa Libertadores, he says a big X factor is MLS and their rating of South American rosters each year. And so you have to wait for the dust to settle after a transfer window and see how much damage MLS was able to do to these teams to see what's left to try to figure out who the favorites are. So no, I mean, MLS has become like a big talk in South America and very much a big part of sort of the landscape there in terms of the transfer conversation.
I mean, look,
and certainly I think I don't want to get too in the weeds here, Alexi, but Facundo Torres is a perfect example of a guy who we saw a debut for Uruguay in the Copa America, was linked with a lot of European teams, but then MLS and Orlando came in and paid more than anybody else was willing to pay. So there will reach a point, I think, where MLS teams are overpaying perhaps at times for certain players that maybe they don't start to see return on investment in. And, then you maybe see the market cool off a little bit. Certainly right now, MLS is full steam ahead, South American players, young, exciting DPs, young DP initiative. And this is the current wave of MLS, and we'll see if that continues to last.
I just want to say this, though. Just because an MLS fan, whether it's me or anybody else out there, just because a bigger name, a sexier name, a well-known name, an established name, if that gets our juices flowing, that doesn't mean that we aren't educated. That doesn't mean that we don't appreciate young talent. I think it's natural, regardless of where you are in the culture of soccer. And until we actually know what these players look like, you can spend $16 million on a player, but until we actually see them in not just Major League Soccer, but a Major League Soccer that is so unique and different and special in so many ways, as we know, Stu, on and off the field, you don't know. Yes, you can get excited about them, but when they actually start performing, when Miguel Almiron was at his height, right? Everybody was tuning in to see him. It's not as if when he first got there, people were saying, "Oh, this guy is the best thing since sliced bread. This is going to be awesome." But as week in and week out, we said this guy is worth the price of admission. It became, this boulder rolling along and getting bigger and bigger and bigger as more people came on. And so, whoever we're talking about here, yes, I think at the end of the year there will be people that either we have mentioned or we haven't mentioned that we're saying these are the new stars. And then they appreciate, you sell them on and do all that. But again, it goes back to this incredible balance that MLS is trying to do with all the spending and with all the incoming and outcoming things. You still don't want to pigeonhole yourself as a minor league, and you don't want to make people think or have that perception that all you are doing is developing players to go on to the big leagues, if you will. And that's not easy. That's not easy to do. Anything else here, Mossy, before we get to some CONCACAF Champions League stuff? Oh, the Neymar, right? I mean, we have to at least finish up with Neymar because he said some things about Major League Soccer, right?
Yeah, but again, this ties into the conversation we just had with Stu saying fans are more sophisticated than they used to be. Honestly,
you're unsophisticated if you're excited about Neymar possibly coming to play in your league?
Yes. I think the days of superstar making some vague comment that he might want to come to MLS someday and everybody getting in a tizzy about it, I think are over. When there's something real here to talk about, we'll talk about it. But this just felt, Neymar has said a lot of things about his future. He just signed a 5-year contract with PSG. So who the heck knows? Like this didn't get me going yet because it was just so vague and kind of offhand. Yeah, I mean, very questionable to include in the rundown. I know there were some people on Twitter this week saying that I'm too hard on Luis Aguilar, but
they came to his defense. It's amazing. They think that you're really almost almost mean and
Bully-like.
Bully-like,
Yeah,
exactly. And we don't stand for bullies here on the State of the Union. I mean, absolutely not. It's going to be okay, Luis. Don't worry about it. I got your back here, okay? It's absolutely appropriate in a soccer show when Neymar, one of the great players in the world, even mentions Major League Soccer. It is newsworthy, okay? And it doesn't make you or me or anybody else out there unsophisticated that we actually get interested in a story like that.
I will say, though, and this is more of a conversation for the World Cup and Brazil and PSG, et cetera, but the injuries have taken their toll on Neymar. He is starting to suffer a bit of a Ronaldinho-like physical decline. He's not as explosive as he used to be. So that's a concern, too, for anybody thinking about Neymar's career long-term and where he might be 2-3 years from now. I'm very concerned by what I'm seeing.
All right. No, enough about Neymar. Stu, is this the year when Major League Soccer finally gets to plant that flag, check that box of CONCACAF Champions League? Just as a reminder, Montreal got an away loss. They lost 1-0 to Santos Laguna. Let's see. Colorado lost away to Comunicaciones down in Guatemala. NYCFC went down and won 2-0. Where were they playing?
Costa Rica, Santos de Guapiles.
Costa Rica.
Yeah, Stu, I gave it the kiss of death last week because I said I think this is the year, just looking at which MLS teams were in it. Powerhouses like Seattle, as we discussed, New England, NYCFC. Looking at the Mexican clubs in it, which are not the traditional Tigres, Monterrey, America. It's, Santos Laguna, Pumas, Cruz Azul, and León are good. But still, I feel like the way the bracket shook out, I think there's a real good chance. And then it actually ended up being a pretty disappointing, other than New England, who congratulations have secured a quarterfinal berth already. But overall, pretty disappointing first leg, round of 16 outings for MLS. I mean, what do you make of it? Did you agree with me that this could be the year or no?
The CONCACAF Champions League, the way it's gone for Major League Soccer the past couple of seasons, if you look at the bracket after maybe the second round, it looks fantastic. I mean, I think we have almost every team through. And then that next round before the semifinals is the kiss of death round where we just get annihilated. And I will say I don't think this is the year they do it. And that feels like the safe bet, Lexi. If you're a betting man, I think the odds would be heavily in your favor if you're betting for MLS not to do it this year. But I will say, I think the way that they win it is if you can get a team into the final, I think that they would win. We just, and it's been so incredibly difficult. I think New York City FC, having Castellanos available, who scored 2 goals in their first match, he's a guy who can make a difference. As you said, I don't think the Revolution are going to get it done this year. So I'm gonna go on the side of no. I'm not giving you anything very exciting other than maybe I'm trying reverse psychology. I'm going to try and reverse jinx it this year, Mossy, because I said last year they were going to get it done. This year I'm saying no, and I hope that they actually do.
I will say, first off, Montreal were victimized by some of the most ridiculous officiating I've ever seen.
Yes. It's redundant.
CONCACAF at its finest. But I will say the fact that it's it's not a year-long thing. It's the finals in May, and the fact that New England were able to push that Turner transfer until the summer, so he's going to be there for the duration. Castellanos, as you mentioned, they turned down offers from River Plate, Palmeiras. Looks like they're going to hold on to him until at least the summer, and then presumably a European club will come in, and they'll probably have to sell him then. But I do like that MLS clubs, I think some of these transfer decisions, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but they were impacted by wanting to have a go at CCL and holding on to their best players, at least through CCL, and then letting them go in the summer. So that's a good sign.
All right.
It's a great sign. I hope it's true. Sorry, Alexi.
No. You want to keep talking? Go ahead, Stu. You got something else to say?
No, I'm good. I mean, I could, I could talk.
Listen, Stu. But Stu says they're not going to win.
And remember, NYCFC, they got that Dude Wipe sponsorship. So they're flush with cash.
Oh, hey now. There it is. You've been writing that one all day.
That's dirty.
Exactly. I think they're going to win. I think MLS wins it this year. So we got both of our bases covered on both sides between me and Stu. All right, before we let you go, Stu, you and I actually spent some time down at Dignity Health Stadium the other day. U.S. Women's National Team continues on in their preparation for qualifying for the World Cup, which will happen next summer in the joint hosts of Australia and New Zealand. This is an interesting time for Vlatko Andonovski, the head coach, and this U.S. women's national team. We were at the game, United States versus Czech Republic. It was a snooze fest, and the U.S. didn't end up scoring any goals. The Czech Republic put up an incredible defense, good play from the goalkeeper, and just stymied this U.S. team. But this is a U.S. team that's going through transition We saw yesterday they got the goals and the win against New Zealand. New Zealand certainly helped them out in terms of Michaela Moore getting her 50th cap and then proceeding to have 3 own goals, something that I don't think anybody has ever seen. There was also debate in the data and stats community as to, has this ever happened before in soccer? Who knows? But it was something to behold, not necessarily a day that she wants to. Stu, I'm going to go to you. Becky Sauerbrunn, by the way, congratulations on her 200th cap. That's amazing, and she just keeps rolling on. We did see Trinity Rodman for the first time. I think that's a good thing. But this team right now is in the midst of a transition, and this is what's interesting to me for a coach like Vlatko Andonovski. He's been very public that this is what he's going to do, but he is still the coach of the U.S. Women's National Team, and we expect our U.S. Women's National Team to always win every single tournament that they are in. We don't accept a step back in order to go 2 steps forward. I don't know what his mandate is ultimately, but he, like I said, has been very public that he needs to kind of change that guard. And I think he's going to do that. Are we going to see that new generation next summer in the World Cup? I actually think we are, and it's going to look very, very different than certainly the 2 previous cycles that not only won, but created massive stars on and off the field for a collection of players that probably won't be around going forward. What were your thoughts, Stu, on the U.S. Women's National Team?
I've been thinking a lot about this, and in many ways, look, the U.S. women, as we know, have been the best in the world for a long period. Did not win the Olympics, and for Vlatko Andonovski, as you said, Alexi, he's rolling the dice a little bit because this is all on him at the end of the day, and the expectation is for the U.S. Women's National Team to compete and, at a minimum, get to a final in a World Cup. And fair or not, I mean, that's the standards that they've set over the past, 20, 30 years, and so I look at this team, and I don't want to make the direct comparison to the U.S. men after not qualifying for the World Cup, because the U.S. women are on a much higher level in terms of their standing in the global game. But, the U.S. had to make a decision at that point. Even when Greg Berhalter took over, is it still going to be the Josie Altidores, the Michael Bradleys, some of these more veteran players and guys in the mix? Or do we just completely wipe it clean and allow the 20, 21, 22-year-olds to develop and get more minutes? I mean, in the women's game, they don't have as many competitive matches to be able to really see some of these women play under pressure. And so when is the perfect time? There's not the perfect time. So you have to start that. I think you're still going to see Alex Morgan in there, Becky Sauerbrunn, of course, and her experience, Julie Ertz. These types of players that have been linchpins for these teams are still going to be in there. But I do think it's the right time for you to give some opportunities. And it's nice seeing Mal Pugh back in the mix. Trinity Rodman, what a year she had in the NWSL and was rewarded with a big contract in her first international cap. So I'm excited to see some of these young players. I think the team needs it. In fact, some of the older players, more experienced players, need to be pushed and genuinely pushed by women that can take their place in the team. So it's a big call, though. I mean, you start World Cup qualifying this year. You've got the World Cup next year. You need to give some of these players an opportunity in the qualifiers this fall to see if they can be ready for next year. It might mean some imperfect results, but there's going to be growing pains in giving young players opportunities. And I think that you have to do it for Vlatko, and it could be your job or you look like a genius. It's the life you live as a coach. So I'm excited that he's taken this time now to give some of these players a chance.
Well, you mentioned Julie Ertz, and she got traded. Her rights got traded from Chicago to Angel City. By the way, we spent some time with Freya Combe, the Angel City FC head coach. Really, really interesting woman. She came over from Gotham. She knows the league, and an expansion team coach. It's amazing. You look in their eyes, and I've done it many, many times before. And sometimes there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on and off the field, but. I will be there. It is my team here in Los Angeles. So the pressure of any professional team to win in Los Angeles is there, including Angel City going forward this year. So we wish them luck, and we wish Freya luck on her new endeavor here in Los Angeles.
Can I just say, back to the U.S. Women's National Team, that was some quote by Vlatko when he was asked about leaving out Rapinoe and Morgan and Press and Heath and Ertz and whether they might come back. He said, well, we also didn't call up Mia Hamm and Julie Foudy.
Wow, that was awesome. Hey, by the way, you mentioned Julie Ertz, okay? And as we said, she got traded from Chicago to L.A. in terms of her rights. I mean, it's going to be an interesting story because who knows when she is actually going to play. And you're talking about a mainstay and a huge, huge component tactically of this team going forward. But if she doesn't play the entire year, is she still able and or, I guess, eligible in Vlatko's eyes if they have moved on? Because it doesn't matter how good you are, time waits for no one. And it will be very, very interesting to see when she actually plays soccer again going forward, and if she's able to still be a part of that team come next summer if she doesn't play any soccer in 2022. Before we let you go, Stu, I know I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this because we haven't really talked about the U.S. national team. We got a window coming up here. Do they get it done? Look at that.
We're going to Qatar.
That's
yeah,
what I like to
I
hear.
think the U.S. too. I think they get a draw down in Mexico, and then you can catch it live on FS1 as they take on Panama from Orlando. We'll be there. U.S. will be rocking, qualifying for the World Cup. Let's go.
That's the way it's done.
Orlando, was Siberia unavailable?
Oh, I get it because it's cold. Cold. It's okay. I get it.
Oh, it's so cold.
All right, my friend. You will be working this weekend. We are recording this on a Monday, but this weekend on Saturday, you will be doing the Portland and New England game. And then on Sunday, you'll be doing the Atlanta United hosting SKC game. Is that correct?
It is correct. I'm interested to see what Portland look like, feel like this year. No Valeri, new generation up there. New England, Josie Altidore is in the mix. Going to be fascinated to see him in some new colors. And then Atlanta United, we got a good one with them. I can't wait to see the iteration of them. And if Mossie's promised me that Joseph Martinez is going to score 20 goals, let's let him rain on Sunday, right?
All right, buddy. Go back to your lounge chair there by the pool or by the beach and pick up your tequila.
The margarita's waiting for me.
Oh, man. I'm so jealous. All right. Have a good time, and we will see you this weekend back at work when it comes to Major League Soccer. Thanks, my friend. That's the great Stu Holden. We're going to take a real quick break. That was a long segment, but I hope...
Stu Holden, the David Brenner of the State of the Union podcast.
Why is that? Why would you say that?
He was a comedian who was the most frequent guest on the Tonight Show.
I got it. All right, so just time after time after. Yes. But if you're good, you're a go-to. All right,
Absolutely.
whether it was Letterman, whether it was Johnny, whether it was Leno, they knew this was money. I go to this person, I know I'm going to get good stuff. Charles Grodin, there's another one who was a perennial type of a guest on the show. We'll bring Stu back many, many times because he's good and he gives good quote and all that kind of stuff. All right, real quick break. When we come back, we'll take a trip around the rest of the world. All right, we're back. Mossy, where do you want to go first here? We got all sorts of stuff that happened. We were back with club games this weekend. Should we start in England?
Well, we're going to do a weekend review of the domestic leagues, but I'm going to weave in Champions League where I feel it's appropriate, including at the very top here, since we're going to be talking about Manchester City and Liverpool. We might as well get out of the way what they did in Champions League because both secured away victories to put their ties to bed. Manchester City hammered Sporting 5-0, so not much to talk about there. Liverpool 2-0 winners away to Inter at the San Siro. Not a great performance. No. Inter was the better team for large portions of that game. They consider themselves hard done.
I think you called it.
A little bit smash and grabby by Liverpool, but the one thing I'll say about Liverpool is this is the best squad he's ever had. The quality of players he was able to bring on in the second half in Firmino and Luis Diaz and Naby Keita and Jordan Henderson. So Liverpool do have a fantastic squad this season, and that leads right into the Premier League where...
Is there a race?
The race is on again.
Is it really?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I already thought it was on, remember?
Okay.
I tell you, I'm just nailing things left and right this week. Liverpool beat Norwich 3-1, and City finally blink. They lose an incredible game to Tottenham 3-2. Harry Kane with a performance for the ages. He was absolutely incredible in this one. And so the gap is down to 6, and Liverpool have a game in hand, so they win that. They play Leeds on Wednesday. They would knock it down to 3. So I think it's race on. Are you still not quite there yet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Pep and company are panicking, but this isn't the runaway scenario that we thought it was going to be, and certainly has been for much of this season, which is a good thing. This is what you want from any league. You want somebody putting pressure. And look, it's Liverpool, so it's not as if Liverpool sneaks up on you or anything. We expect Liverpool to be there, and that they weren't was a concern. And we've talked about it before. You need things to happen on both sides. You need to get your wins, and it's not like we're gonna break our arms patting Liverpool on the back for beating Norwich, but they did it. and they needed to do it, and they got a little help on the other side. So yeah, I'm excited about this. Was the Harry Kane a return? Was it an anomaly, just as a reminder that he can be great, or is this a kick-on type of thing for him and Spurs for that matter?
Yeah, I think it's been trending in the right direction since Conte got there. He started to look like the old Harry Kane, and then this performance, I think he'll kick on from here and be phenomenal the rest of the season. And, obviously City tried to sign him in the summer. He didn't go. So him terrorizing Manchester City, it's
Would you rather have Kane or Haaland?
Obviously, we're saying for right now to try to win a game tomorrow, because if you factor in age, then obviously Haaland.
Yeah, I'm not talking about age. I mean, if this is as good a Kane as we have seen in years, then just take that Foreman right now.
Yeah, this Kane, I'd probably take this Kane.
Really? Okay, cool. Well, that's great. That's great for him that you have given that ringing endorsement for him. And if you're a Spurs fan, like our friend Ali Wagner, for example, she must be in heaven right now.
Oh. Not much to say about Manchester United. They did beat Leeds 4-2, a crazy game there.
They made it interesting, though.
I will say, though, Sancho, another very good performance, 2 assists. So he's somebody.
Thank you, Chris Armas. Thank you.
Yeah. I mentioned that Inter lost 2-0 at home to Liverpool. They then followed it up with another 2-0 home defeat. This one way less justifiable. This one to Sassuolo.
Oof.
And then the good news for them is Milan also stumbled. They drew 2-2 against Salernitana. And Napoli stumbled today. They were held to a 1-1 draw by Cagliari. So those three still bunched together at the top. Nobody really made much of a move this weekend. In La Liga, it's been a topsy-turvy season, but this was a weekend where the quote-unquote big three took care of business. Real Madrid beat Alaves 3-0. Asensio, Vinicius, and Benzema with the goals. Atletico Madrid beat Osasuna 3-0. Luis Suarez scored an absolutely incredible goal.
There's another reminder,
Yes,
like, hey,
absolutely.
I can still do things like this.
And then Barcelona hammered Valencia 4-1. Aubameyang credited with a hat trick. I have a real issue with this. This business where a guy takes a shot and it just grazes off a teammate and goes in, and the teammate gets credit for the goal. That third Aubameyang goal should have been Pedri's. That happens every week now, and it burns me when the guy gets credit for a goal that he knew nothing about, and the guy that actually took the shot is. What do you think?
So you don't want somebody that it deflects off
exactly
to get credit for.
Pedri, we have to have a bit of a higher bar there for crediting somebody a goal. Pedri took a shot. Aubameyang had his back turned, knew nothing about it. It grazed him and went in. They initially gave it to Pedri. Then they reviewed it and said, no, it touched Aubameyang, so it's technically an Aubameyang goal. That's a bit weird.
Because without that contact, it doesn't go in the goal. It is the ultimate contact. All right. This goes back to the assist versus scoring goals. The most important thing is scoring a goal. You have to make contact with the ball in order for it to go in the goal. Even if whether it's voluntary or not voluntary, you should get credit for the goal.
So in Real Madrid's case, it was bouncing back from the Champions League loss to PSG. PSG followed up that victory with a shock 3-1 defeat to Nantes. The only thing I'll say about that game, which will lead us into talking about the Champions League match between Real Madrid and PSG, is it would not surprise me if Mbappe starts taking the penalty kicks for the rest of the season. They're trying to do anything they can to butter him up to try to get him to stay there. And this might be the next thing they can do, because Messi missed one in the Champions League game. Neymar missed one this past weekend, which was absolutely embarrassing. I don't know if you saw. Now, Neymar in recent years, to be fair, has sort of mastered this technique where he hesitates right before he's going to take it. He gets the goalkeeper to lean one way, and then he just calmly strokes the ball the other way. And it's worked well for him. He made like 20-something in a row. But you do run the risk, if you misinterpret it which way the goalkeeper's leaning, that you can look ridiculous. And he did here, because the goalkeeper actually guessed the right way. Neymar just calmly rolled it to that side. And it was one of the easiest penalty kick saves you'll ever see.
We see this at times with the Panenka attempts where the goalkeeper goes this way, that, and then just ends up catching it. And yeah, you're going to look bad if you do that, but it's going to happen, So I'm not too upset.
But so circling back to what was the most anticipated Champions League match of last week, PSG defeated Real Madrid 1-0 at the Parc des Princes. And I have to say, first off, it's sort of jarring to watch a match that Lionel Messi is involved in which he's not the central figure. But the spotlight was very much on Mbappe, and he delivered an incredible performance. Him and Verratti were the two best players on the field. He terrorized Carvajal and then terrorized Lucas Vazquez when they brought him in. Every PSG attack came through him. He earned the penalty that Messi missed, and then he scores a spectacular goal late. This all occurring against a backdrop of us all expecting he's going to sign with Real Madrid in a few months, which if I was a Real Madrid fan, that would console me because I'd look at it and say, hey, at least we lost, but this guy we're going to build our team around for the next 10 years, reminding everybody how incredible he is. So
right now, is he the best player in the world?
I think you can definitely make that case, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what did you make of his performance?
It's incredible. It didn't matter who they put out there. He was going to beat him. I was texting back and forth with Keith Kostick about it. Actually, he was tweeting back and forth with him and saying, make a sub, do something. But it really didn't matter who you put in there. He lines you up. He's got, and the speed is deceptive at times. It's unpredictable, and just the grace in which he uses his physical attributes is at times Thierry Henry-esque. It's wonderful.
Now, Messi's performance was very polarizing. L'Equipe gave him a 3 out of 10 in their ratings, which some found a bit harsh. But there are others that thought, no, he was that bad. What do you think? No goals, no assists, missed a penalty, didn't do anything spectacular by Messi standards, but had some nice passes and functioned as the playmaker in the team and kept the ball moving intelligently. I mean, how would you assess his performance?
I mean, it's always the fascinating, I guess, the psychology behind these numbers. And, I remember playing in Europe, and you would get up the next morning and you would see the numbers that you got, and there's no formula to it. It's a perception, and it's subjective as to what it. But if you're arguably the greatest player ever to play the game, and you step on a soccer field, there's going to be heightened expectation for what you can do. And when you look ordinary, which is what he did, ordinary for Messi is a problem. While for others it might be great, for him it's a problem, especially because I don't think that this move to PSG, I don't think it was, how do I say this? I don't think that it was viewed at the time as a retirement. Yes, maybe, and not even necessarily a step down. It was just a sideways type of move. And yet it hasn't gone well, in that he has not had the impact that he consistently had with, by the way, especially to the later part, some really mediocre to poor types of Barcelona teams. So is it just because it's different circumstances and a different place that he's at, or are we really seeing the end of the great one in terms of what he was able to do?
For Real Madrid, listen, we're only at the halfway point. They can certainly turn around this tie, but I felt somewhat vindicated by that first leg performance because my dad and I have watched an inordinate amount of Real Madrid this season because of Vinicius, and we've been sort of scratching our heads and feeling like it was smoke and mirrors. The results were much better than the performances, and this team wasn't that good. They're sort of doing this weird dance where when you have a midfield with Casemiro, Modric, and Kroos, you'd think that would lend itself to being a possession team that controls games, but they want to take advantage of Vinicius' pace, so they end up playing on the counter, defending very deep, absorbing pressure, trying to lure teams forward so they leave spaces behind, getting the ball to Vinicius and letting him run. That's how they've made their living all season. And when Vinicius is absent or has a really off day like he had, there's not a lot there in the way of creativity, especially with Benzema less than 100%. And so I wasn't that surprised by that performance. It was really bad. I mean, Donnarumma didn't even touch the ball. And Florentino Perez supposedly was beside himself and had a talk with Ancelotti afterwards, and never again. I mean, Ancelotti had to apologize in the press conference and say, yeah, I mean, that was unacceptable.
They can be beautiful. I mean, this weekend we saw,
and amazingly enough, they were 10 seconds away from getting not a bad result, especially with the away goal rule not existing anymore. Which, by the way, any thoughts on that? It's still a matter of debate on Twitter.
I remember seeing the consternation of it, and it's just, the pendulum is just going to swing back and forth. Oh, we need it, we don't need it, and when we have it, we don't want it, and when we don't have it, we want it. I think that's just the way that it is. In looking at the history and hearing people talk about why it was implemented in the first place, best intentions to try to do things to make teams attack, to not sit back in a game where we know you can do that and still be successful. So it's admirable that was what it was designed to do, and still may be a solution going forward. But the way that the environments that we have nowadays, while they can be loud and while they can be boisterous, it's nothing compared to maybe some of the situations and maybe even some unsafe and not great situations in the past that made it so difficult going on the road. And I'm not saying it's easy going on the road, but it's certainly easier now on the road.
In Germany, both Bayern and Dortmund won, so the gap stays 6. Let me do Dortmund first. They hammered Gladbach 6-0. Gio Reyna limped off in the first half in tears, so U.S. Soccer Twitter was very concerned. Good news came out today. Not that serious. He'll be back in a couple of weeks, but still, it's been kind of a lost season for him.
It is, and your heart dropped, and you feel for this still young player with so much promise and with so much potential that we have seen. And, from a U.S. men's national team perspective, I think a lot of people are still writing him in. Now, they've done it without him for so long now that, yes, we would like to have him, but I worry that this is a continuation and this will become kind of chronic. We saw it at times with Christian Pulisic and with others. And staying healthy, as I said many times, is a skill. And I don't know if he has mastered it yet, but you could just see that he was crushed because he worked very, very hard to get back on the field. You're finally back on the field, and he knew it. And if you saw the play, it was very, very strange. My friend Ivis Galarsip, I think, brought up an image where he thinks it might have been tweaked for whatever reason it happened, but he made a run in the box. The ball went in the goal, one of the goals that they scored, and rather than celebrate, you could see in that moment that he knew something was not right. And we know when you're recovering from injury, when you have an injury, you overcompensate and compensate in other ways in your body, and the balance sometimes is off. So it sucks for him as a player, obviously for Dortmund, because they believe in him. And then from a U.S. men's national team perspective, I don't know if he makes it for this next window. If he's there, great. It's just an added bonus. But they've done it this far without him, and I don't know if he is going to be able to be counted on when it comes to this next window. So hopefully it's only the 2 weeks that they're talking about.
And I'll tell you, all is not right in Bayern's world. They had that terrible result against Bochum. We both thought they were going to take out their frustrations on Salzburg.
Right.
Another disappointing performance there. Lucky to get out of there with a draw. We'll talk about that game in a second. And so I thought, okay, this weekend, home against the last place team in the Bundesliga, Greater Fürth. Apologies to Derek Ray if I'm butchering that pronunciation. But that game was 1-1 in the 60-something minute. Yeah, then they broke out. They won 4-1. But still, it wasn't like the flex the muscles, lay the hammer down type performance I was expecting from them. So they have some issues there. They do have a 6-point lead over Dortmund in the Bundesliga. And they got out of there with a decent result in the Champions League, 1-1 away to Salzburg. So you'd expect them to take care of business at home. But the story of that game from an American perspective, Brenden Aaronson, I thought was absolutely outstanding. He gets the assist on the Salzburg goal. And, let me tell you what you think about this. A few months ago, I feel like we all considered, when we talked about this generation of American players, there were a handful of guys that were considered the standard bearers of it. There was Pulisic, McKennie, Adams, etc. Brenden Aaronson was viewed more as second tier, kind of a level below those guys. And I sense that U.S. fans are now starting to push him into that upper tier, feeling like he's leveling up, like his ceiling might have been higher than we imagined. Like he might be a guy that in the not too distant future we'll see playing for a Chelsea or a Juventus. Do you sense that too? And are you on that page? If so,
I mean, look, he's been incredible, and this is a guy that you can see looked at the situation, said, this is a huge opportunity for me, and I'm going to grab it with both hands, and I'm not going to let it go. Now, that he is able to back it up with a work ethic second to none and a motor that just keeps on running, literally running, he's the player you want on his team. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him in the Ask Alexi segment because there's some things and some compare and contrasts that I'm going to do with him. But keep in mind, if now he is on that first tier, you got to replace him. You got to have him replace somebody else out there. And these are good problems. These are good problems to have. But it'll be interesting to see what Greg Berhalter does. But as I've said time and time again, form is fallacy. So just because somebody is doing well, whether it's a Brenden Aaronson who's doing incredibly well right now, or even a Jordan Pefok who's scoring goals right now, if and when they get called back into the national team, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to, all things being equal, yes, you want players playing well, and you would hope that whatever form that is, it translates to the national team, but it doesn't always work out like that. Anything else, Mossy?
No. So in terms of the Champions League this upcoming week, we've got 4 more round of 16 first legs. On Tuesday, Chelsea hosts Lille. Should be no problem for Chelsea. Lille or mid-table team in League.
We're both going for Chelsea there, yep.
And we'll see if Pulisic gets another start. He started at the weekend. Looks like his good performance in the Club World Cup final bought him some currency with Thomas Tuchel. But...
Or he was just playing him on the weekend to rest him for the midweek where he's going to play his real 11. Okay.
Also, we're taping this on a Monday, so also tomorrow, Tuesday, Villarreal hosts Juventus, and so Wes and McKinney there. And I'll tell you, I know Juventus fans feel like they had the greatest transfer window ever and are back in business, but I don't think they're that good still, and Villarreal is a dangerous team. That one's pretty close to a 50-50 for me. It would not surprise me at all if Villarreal went through in that tie.
Okay. But that game, I'm predicting a tie, 0-0, 1-1, whatever it ends up.
Okay. And then fast forward to Wednesday. This to me is the best matchup of this week. Atletico Madrid will host Manchester United. Cristiano Ronaldo has an incredible scoring record against Atletico, and not just with Real Madrid. He got a hat-trick for Juventus against Atletico in the Champions League round of 16, so that's kind of the big story there. Can Cristiano terrorize them again?
What do you got there? Just in that game.
Atletico.
Oh, you got him winning?
Yes.
Okay. Boy, Chris Armas is going to be under a lot of pressure there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, Benfica host Ajax. Ajax hoping to pick up where they left off in the group stage. Remember, they won all 6 games, scoring 20 goals in the process. They've also been lights out in the Dutch league, a plus 65 goal difference, 70 goals scored, 5 against. Sebastian Haller can't stop scoring. My boy Anthony's setting him up. So I love this Ajax team, and I'm going to say they keep it going. They go in there and get a result against Benfica in Lisbon.
Like a result 1-1 type of thing, or they actually win?
I say they win.
Yes, there we go. I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I disagree, but I think Manchester United is going to go into and beat Atletico away. There we go.
Could be.
All right, anything else?
That is it.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, it's time for Ask Alexi. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we're back, and it's time for Ask Alexi. You send in those questions either on the social media platforms that we have out there. You can use that hashtag Ask Alexi, or you call our State of the Union podcast hotline. You know it. You love it. 657-549-2297. That's 657-549-2297. And then you can leave us a message. Hopefully it's something that's interesting. Hopefully you're efficient in doing so. And we have a couple of audio questions this week, don't we, Mossy?
Correct. First up, it's John from Kansas City.
Hey, guys. Hope you're doing well. This is John from Kansas City. I actually just had maybe a fun question. Hopefully it won't get you guys in trouble too much. I actually asked the Soccer Cooligans this, and they had a little bit of fun with it. But let's say, just for hypothetical reasons, we do have pro and relegation in the MLS. You have to choose 2 teams from the West, 2 teams from the East. Who are you sending down from purely an emotional decision? Hopefully that doesn't get you guys in too much trouble, but I just wanted to, get your opinions on an emotional decision. 2 from the West, 2 from the East. Who would you send down? Thanks, guys.
Wow. That is a great, great question, John from Kansas City. And you're right. It is going to get us in trouble because no matter who you pick, somebody is going to feel aggrieved. And I guess rightfully so. All right. So the evergreen question, first off, about promotion relegation. But this is a great way to kind of get around that and have a different way of looking at that. All right. From an emotional perspective, because immediately my thoughts turn to the market. Hey, this is a big market. It would not help the league. It would not help the sport if that market was not in the first division, if they went down to the second division. And then, I start looking at it, okay, but that's more of my mind as opposed to my heart. All right, so the East, I would say, and look, I've been to this place, wonderful people, and a brand new stadium, but Cincinnati would be one of my teams. And the emotional part comes in because they have irritated me and angered me over the last few years at how bad and inept they have been. I also look at it from a perspective of would anybody, not anybody, would people care if they weren't there? And at some point you have to look at a team and say, no. And I'm not saying that Cincinnati doesn't love their soccer team, but when I look at what Cincinnati has been, maybe the best thing in the world for them would be to go away for a little bit, get their shit together, and then come back and kind of start again. So Cincinnati would be one. Two, and this is where I look at the market and say, this is a good market. We don't want that to happen. But Chicago. So that's the other team from the East would be Chicago. The situation with the move from the stadium and the rebrand, the double rebrand, and back to Soldier Stadium, and just being irrelevant for now a number of years, a once great team. Maybe this would be the kick in the ass to get them go down to come back stronger. So that's my Eastern teams. When it comes to the West, Vancouver, and if Vancouver, if Vancouver made a fell in the woods and there was nobody there, would anybody hear it? I don't know. It's Vancouver. So, and I have to pick somebody. They have not been good. I don't think they have added anything to Major League Soccer other than Alphonso Davies in recent history. And this is a once great, once proud type of soccer community. So I take no pleasure in saying Vancouver. And the other one is Houston. Again, hope springs eternal, and I hope that they are great this year. But if Houston went away, other than the Houston Dynamo fans, I don't think anybody would cry or care about it, and maybe that's what they needed to do. So this is a hard one. This is a good question, though. What do you got, Mossy? What do you think?
I don't know. It's a weird question. I mean, the whole concept of relegation is you're just looking at the standings, and the teams that perform the worst should get punished for that. So, but I mean, well,
look, you could put it in the form of, let's say we're going through we're tightening our belts, all right, and you got to come in and you say 4 teams have to leave. Which 4 teams would they be?
Well, what's fascinating is that if you look at the overall table last season, the bottom 4 teams were Cincinnati, Toronto, Houston, and Austin FC. Now, Austin FC, to be fair, they were an expansion team, so I'm going to leave them out of it. But Toronto FC is the one that got it so wrong that if MLS had relegation, they would have gone down. So it just sort of
Toronto has spent money. They have led the way in terms of spending money. It hasn't always worked out, but I value them from an ambition perspective. That's why I would never say Toronto FC as one of my 2. Who would you go with?
I would send NYCFC down. When you get a stadium, you can come back to.
Wow. Okay. The Pigeons are not going to be happy with you.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's see. We got another one?
Yes. Norm Sweetheart from Connecticut.
So, hi, Alexi. It's Norm from Connecticut, Norm Sweetheart from Connecticut. And so we fans of the USMNT spend a lot of time and energy discussing roster selection and comparing our players to our other players. And I get that there's a value in that, but I wonder if we're also missing a bigger picture. I mean, it's one thing to compare an Anthony Robinson to a George Bello or a Joe Scally, but it doesn't really tell us much about what we can expect to compete against World Cup competition that we will hopefully face. So I want to broaden the discussion by putting you, Alexi, on the spot if you're up to it, and I think you are. You are certainly an expert concerning the 1994 World Cup team that put the USMNT on the map. I would ask for you to compare either by position or by starting 11 how this 2022 version compares to your 1994 team. Thanks. Bye.
Ooh, that is another good question. You guys are bringing it. Oh, I love it. Okay. It's a little apples and oranges in terms of lineup.
Current team definitely better in the center of defense.
Absolutely. Okay. So, so this is the starting lineup, shall we say, for the team. And I know there was changes at different times back in 1994, just as a reminder. Tony Meola in goal, Fernando Clavijo at right back, Lawless and Balboa in the center back positions, Paul Caligiuri at left back, Sorber and Dooley in the middle, Tab Ramos on the right, John Harkes on the left, Ernie Stewart and Eric Winalda as attackers. And, a lot of times they were at 2, but sometimes, Ernie Stewart would pull back into that midfield. And then this is the lineup that I have for the 2022 version of the U.S. Men's National League. And I know it changes, but Zach Steffen in goal, Serginho Dest on the right, Zimmerman and Robinson in the middle, Anthony Robinson at the left back, Musa, Adams, and McKennie in that midfield position in the middle of the park, Weah on the right, Pulisic on the left, and Pepe up top. Okay, so right off the bat, goalkeeper. Tony Meola, as I've said before, I think would have not only been incredibly comfortable and not missed a beat if he was playing in the modern era of playing out of the back and the requirement of players or of goalkeepers to be able to play with their feet, but he would have been one of the stars because from the moment that I came on the team with Tony Meola, it was clear that this guy could ping balls and had a wonderful soft touch. His distribution, even back in that era, was something to behold. So I think I'm going to go with Tony Meola. Plus, he's a shot stopper. I get it. So I'm going to go with Tony Meola. So it was better than Zach Steffen. Serginho Dest, I think, is better than Fernando Clavijo. Rest in peace. Wonderful man. Incredible speed. Obviously, in the 94 World Cup, he was already in his later 30s when we saw him playing, but that's how good he was. His quickness was just something to behold, but I think Serginho Dest is better, so I'm going to go with Dest at the right side. Let's just get it out of the way here. I am Walker Zimmerman, okay? I see Walker Zimmerman, and I think that looks wonderful. That is the type of player that I was. So I am going to X out both of us. It's a draw there, all right? So we're the same. It's just a different era, a different generation, but the same type of player. Good in the air, not necessarily the most fleet of foot. Somebody that you want to have your back, whether it's at the bar or on the soccer field. And that's the type of person that he is. And I find myself seeing parts of myself, if you will, in his play. But so that negates there. I think that Marcelo Balboa, while a very, very different player than Miles Robinson, I think Marcelo Balboa is better. Marcelo often gets lumped into as a player that was just about, physical tackles. And believe me, he could lay people out and take the ball, the player in the first three rows without a doubt. But he also had a much, much, much better soft touch and technical ability than people gave him credit for. I think he is slightly better than Miles in that aspect. And so I'm going to go with Marcelo Balboa there. Paul Caligiuri versus Anthony Robinson at the left back position. I am going to go with Paul Caligiuri. Anthony, he's too erratic. And it boggles my mind sometimes in the things that he does. Now, listen, my mind was boggled at times by Paul Caligiuri, was much more in the type of dude that he was. He was a trip, and I love him. But more importantly, when he got on the soccer field, there was a consistency, and that for any team and any defense is money. And so I'm going to go with Paul Caligiuri as better than Anthony Robinson. Now we get to the midfield. The three in the midfield, let's say. So this is Adams, Musa, and McKennie versus Sorber, Dooley, and Ernie Stewart, if you will. I think that both McKennie and Adams are better than Dooley and Sorber, so I'm going to go with them. There we go. They win that. And then I'm going to say Stewart is better than Musa. So Ernie Stewart gets better than Musa. All right, let's go out wide. A lot of different options for certainly the 22 team. When we go out to the right-hand side, Weah versus Ramos. I've already told you that Tab Ramos, for me, is the best American soccer player from the male side that I have ever seen. And so he gets the nod, a man at a time, playing on that left-hand side over Weah. I love you, Johnny, in terms of Harks on that left-hand side, but Christian Pulisic is a better player. So I'm going to go with Christian Pulisic over there. And then up top, it's not even a question that Ronaldo wins over Pepe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 94 wins. Now, with this caveat, when it comes to depth, it's not even close. 22 has so many more options. I mean, we talked about Brenden Aaronson. This is where I bring him back in. Because if you look at coming off the bench for 94, you have somebody like Joe Max Moore, right? Joe Max Moore is Brenden Aaronson as far as I'm concerned. You have somebody like Kobe Jones coming off the bench. Kobe Jones is Jordan Morris, okay? And then when you start getting into more and more players, absolutely 22 has much more depth. So in the long term, there is more talent, and therefore I think is rightfully we should have higher expectations when it comes to the 22 team. But if you go man to man and stuff like that, a lot of those 94 players, I would put them as better than these guys from 22.
Now that 94 lineup, what game is that from?
I think it's
Because
Colombia.
if I'm not mistaken, Ronaldo did not start against Brazil in the round of
He didn't.
16,
He definitely
which he is
didn't.
still bitter about.
Yes,
so,
he'll tell you all about it.
you know.
But way to go, Eric. You're better than Ricardo Pepi. That's another great question. All right. And I did.
Shouldn't Ronaldo slot in at left back? Because to hear him tell it, that's where he played many of his hence
Now,
his goal scoring.
Well, I mean, if this was a compare and contrast in terms of whining, then Ronaldo would, come out ahead absolutely every single time. Anything else?
No.
I love you, Eric.
Thanks for the question, sweetheart. What is that Norm Sweetheart about? Is that his name?
That's his name. That's what he's going with. We got a Twitter question though too, right?
Yeah. So originally Luis Aguilar had picked some completely inane question, and you said no, I want to hit on the Joe Scally thing. So we are going to talk about Joe Scally, who. So the question is, at IMJ Mania asks, what are your thoughts on Scally's comments? From a player's perspective, are supporters blowing this out of proportion? How big a deal is this? You replied on Twitter, evidently, according to some... First of all, to give some context, Joe Scally gave an interview. He's a guy that a lot of people feel should be on the U.S. national team, hasn't been called up recently, and he gave some interview in which he said there's been no communication with Greg Berhalter the last few months. And so, hence the question about, are we blowing this out of proportion, or should Berhalter be communicating with him? You said... Evidently, according to some, Greg Berhalter should wake up each day and hold the hand of every player eligible for the U.S. men's national team while awarding them participation trophies and whispering positive affirmations in their ear. Grow up. Joe just answered a question. He's not whining. So as you can imagine, that got a big reaction on Twitter, and you wanted to expound on it.
Well, no, I mean, okay. So first off, the latter part of that, when this question is asked, and it's a gotcha question, right? And Joe Scally just answered honestly. Now, that doesn't mean that he is not irked, that he has not been contacted, okay? And I'm not suggesting that Joe Scally believes that Greg Berhalter should be calling him every single day. Yes, there is I think a job requirement when it comes to Greg Berhalter and Brian McBride and Ernie Stewart to recognize the pool that exists out there. But also this is happening, and we just talked about it in the last question, this is happening in 2022, where that pool is so wide. Just because somebody says that you are a good player, just because you are a good player, just because you are a great player, just because you are playing in this country, and usually it's Europe, does not mean, okay, that you are necessarily part of the plans when it comes to the national team, or you should be called in when it comes to the national team. That he hasn't heard from the coaching staff, is it surprising to me? Well, first off, I do know for a fact that Greg Berhalter and his coaching staff, they are meticulous in terms of their preparation, but they want to make sure that they are not just being frivolous about their attention. And yes, maybe more so than any time in history, the ability to recruit and the ability to keep players feeling like they are part of the team is a quality and a value that you want for a U.S. men's national team coach. But I think, the clutching of pearls and the anger and the venom that came out. And a lot of it is, if you don't like Greg Berhalter, you look at this and there's another strike against him. And maybe if you do like Greg Berhalter, this also leaves you scratching your head. Is it the end of the world? No. He might not be in the plans. He might not, from a U.S. men's national team, be their cup of tea right now, even though he's playing, even though at times he is starting, even though he is a good player. But to have this be looked at as dereliction of duty, I think that's wrong. You certainly, I think, can look at it and say, well, I like this player, and obviously Greg Berhalter doesn't necessarily like him either for now or forever, and so therefore I disagree with Greg Berhalter in his assessment. But that he hasn't contacted him in a while, yeah, I mean, I think there's other hills to die on when it comes to that. And the national team, all right, is not promised to anyone. The national team is about the elites of the elite. The national team is something that you are awarded, and it's not always based on merit, but there should be a sense of accomplishment and pride, with the recognition that it's not always going to happen for everybody out there. But again, this notion that everybody should have their hand held and everything's okay and we're doing this and we're watching you here. Go do your damn job, all right? And if you are seen, either because people are telling you're being seen or people are seeing but not telling you, then it's either going to result in you getting called in, or it's not going to result in you getting called in. I know everybody wants to feel loved. I get it. But this is, I thought it was ridiculous at times in terms of the reaction. And look, I am not just defending Greg Berhalter at every corner. There's plenty of things that I disagree with in terms of some of the decisions and in terms of some of the things that he has done. Look no further than the game against Canada and the way that we approached it. And that was disappointing to me. But this is nothing to me.
That's it.
All right. Thank you for your questions, whether it was your audio questions, really good audio questions this week, or your Twitter questions. Just keep them coming. Again, our hotline, 657-549-2297. That's 657-549-2297. And, of course, you can use all the social media platforms out there. Use that hashtag AskAlexi and send it on through. So you're bringing it. I love it. I love it. Thank you very much for doing that. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and it's time for the end of the show. So we'll be back around the corner here with one for the road. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back, and it's the end of the show, and I give you my one for the road at the end of each and every show. First things first, I've been doing some writing, as you mentioned, Mossy, for our Fox Digital side and our website out there. I have a column up now with regards to Greg Berhalter, and it's not necessarily a defense of him, but it examines some of the aspects of how the American soccer community right now looks at him, and especially this segment that feels like he is not the person to be given all of this talent that we have, and that somebody else could be getting more out of the talent that we have. And I argue in the piece that whether they say it out loud, and it's human nature, you want them to fail. And immediately people bristle when you say something like that. But if you feel that Greg Berhalter is the wrong person for the job, then you want them to fail in order to get the right person in, because otherwise it's not going to happen. As long as he continues to win and continues to do well and to qualify this team, it's not going to change. He is going to be the coach. And so it's okay. Just admit it. And once again, I'm not necessarily judging you for that, but it's this unspoken truth that exists behind all of this venom, I think, that follows Greg Berhalter. And look, he's a big boy. He's fine. He understands that this comes with the territory. And we find ourselves again, Mossy, after all is said and done about what happened in 2017, it's almost full circle in the way that this next window is coming about. Yes, we're in a better position, and I'm sure you have the numbers in terms of the percentages, but we thought we were through last time too, and some strange can happen this next window. I hope it doesn't happen, but this is the opportunity in almost the same type of circumstances for Greg Berhalter to do what Bruce Arena was not able to do. And we'll look forward to seeing whether that happens.
Are you done with Berhalter?
Yeah, done.
One last thing from me. I don't want to be accused of ducking this issue, so I'll say Greg Berhalter might have taken a selfie, but at least he didn't punch an assistant on the opposing team as a certain college basketball coach did this weekend.
You're Michigan Wolverines, and this is a legendary player, though, right? That's your head coach?
Juwan Howard of Fab Five.
He's the Fab Five, one of the Fab Five guys. Yeah, I saw this. I tweeted about it. It came on my radar, my Twitter radar. It was amazing to see. Now, I'll say this about this moment. In this day and age where immediately we talk about, this person should be This is the problem with us. Okay, something like this happens. Immediately, this person should be fired, or it should, we should sue him, or they should cancel him, or whatever. We're so eager to destroy people. And look, I don't know if this guy's a good guy or not. He's going to get suspended, right? He's going to face severe punishment. I don't know. Maybe he does get fired. Maybe this is beyond the pale, and it certainly didn't look good. But this mob mentality, when we see something like this, it's the worst possible thing. These are human beings. These are human beings in moments of emotion and of passion, and people make mistakes. And it doesn't mean that you don't pay for those mistakes. It doesn't mean you're not responsible for those. But nobody was hurt, by all accounts, ultimately. And was it a bad look for him and for his team and for his university? Yes. But, I mean, it angers me to kind of see the mob gather and, the pitchforks out for somebody at each and every moment of making a mistake. What do you think is going to happen to him?
I agree with you. Suspended but not fired. Legendary Ohio State football coach Woody Hayes was fired for an incident in which he punched an opposing player. Now, do you draw a line there between had he punched an opposing player, you would have felt differently about it than him punching a fellow coach? Is there
Yeah, probably. And also, I don't differentiate between slap and punch. I mean, if you're striking somebody, because everyone's like, oh, it was a slap as opposed to a punch. Come on.
Michigan fans have not covered themselves in glory here. The both sidesing of this and Zapruder filming it and looking at it. Hey, actually, it was the Wisconsin guy who did such and such first. I mean, come on. The whole thing was Juwan Howard's fault. And everybody else was ready to shake hands and walk off the court. There was one guy who created an issue that.
But it all stems from calling a timeout or something like that. I mean, I don't understand all the unwritten rules. And
there was nothing wrong with that timeout, given the defense Michigan was playing. So Wisconsin had a big lead late, but Michigan was still trying on defense, and so Wisconsin called a timeout. I wouldn't have been bothered by it at all if I was Juwan Howard. At most, maybe a little perturbed, but still, you shake the guy's hand, you walk off the court. His reaction was completely ridiculous.
The post-game press conference, you can tear him a new one and go from there. Oh, my.
I mean, not to go in the weeds here with Michigan basketball, but what I'm concerned about is that players got involved and they might get suspended, because if it was just Juwan Howard, frankly, the way he's coached this season, him getting suspended for a few games might not be a bad thing. Get Phil Martelli in there, we'd be better off. And it's a shame, because this Wisconsin game was a nice to have. It wasn't a need. There's no shame in losing at Wisconsin. They're a better team than us. Michigan has a bunch of home games coming up. If they take care of business there, they would be in the NCAA tournament. And now he's severely compromised their ability to win these upcoming games, because it looks like players are going to get suspended for those games. So the whole thing was
what a mess. All right, before we go, we have an announcement to make. We have swag. We have State of the Union swag here. Now, when I say we have swag, this is incredibly limited in what we have. And so here's what we're going to do. For those that are listening, you can't see what we're doing, but we're holding up these incredibly soft and beautiful T-shirts that have the crest of the State of the Union on it. What we're going to do is, in the month of March, if we pick your question, either your social media question or your call into the hotline question to use, and we do a podcast a week, so let's say that there's 4 of them in the month. So we're going to have about 12 ultimately after the month. We will put your name into a raffle, if you will, and we're going to pick one that is going to get this unique, I mean, almost one of a kind types of things. While I would love to say that we have tons and tons and we can give them out, or you can buy them and do all that kind of stuff, no. These are very, very special. They are. You will be able to pass them down from generation to generation, and they will only increase in value because they are so limited. These T-shirts and stuff, and they were nice enough to make a few of them up, and so we do have a few, and so that's what's going to happen. So if you ever see somebody in one of these things, recognize what an amazing thing that you are seeing, because they are not mass-produced. They are very, very limited. And who knows what happens in the future. But this limited run here, that's what we're going to do in March. And we thank you so much. Whether you get a T-shirt or not, we thank you so much for sending in your questions. That hotline again, 657-549-2297, 657-549-2297. Or, of course, you can use the Twitters and the Instagrams and the platforms out there and use that hashtag AskAlexi. Mossy, anything before we go?
That is it.
All right, we will talk again next week. My thanks to Stu Holden. MLS, it's right back at it this week. I can't believe it's upon us again. The 27th season is off this weekend. We will have games on Fox both on Saturday and on Sunday. Can't wait to see what all of these teams are doing and all these different players that we have talked about. Hope Stu gets back from Cabo and gets back behind the mic. Until then, and as always, size the day.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops every week. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.